Tensions in the Middle East have escalated dramatically once again as the United States launched a fresh wave of military strikes against Iran, raising fears that the fragile ceasefire and ongoing diplomatic efforts could completely collapse. And the latest strikes came after US President Donald Trump warned that Iran would pay the price of the negotiations continued to stall, signaling a sharp escalation in Washington's response to Iran's action in the region. And according to the US Central Command, American forces launched multiple strikes across Iran on the direct orders of President Donald Trump. The strikes reportedly targeted Iranian military surveillance systems, communication networks, and air defense sites that the US claimed posed a threat to the American troops and international shipping routes in the region. US Marine Corps, Navy, and Air Force assets were all involved in the operation, carrying out what Washington described as precision self-defense strikes. The attacks followed a dangerous exchange earlier in the week when Iran launched retaliatory strikes against locations in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan, countries that host major American military installations. And Iranian state media claim that its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or also known as IRGC, targeted 18 important US military facilities during a two-wave military operation. Reports from Iranian outlets also claim that Sheikh Issa Air Base in Bahrain was destroyed and that attacks were launched against the US Fifth Fleet headquarters stationed in Bahrain. However, the US military rejected all those claims and stated that no American warships had been struck and that the military operations in the region continued normally. Bahrain and Kuwait later confirmed that incoming missiles and projectiles were intercepted, while Jordan stated that its defense systems successfully shot down several missiles that were allegedly heading towards an airbase hosting US aircraft. Explosions and heavy air defense activity were also reported across several areas in southern Iran following the American strikes. Iranian media said that blasts were heard in Bandar Abbas, Sirik, Minab, Kangan, Kishma Island, and the Hengam Island, all strategically significant locations near the Strait of Hormuz. Residents reported hearing repeated explosions as air defense systems attempted to intercept incoming attacks. Authorities have also not yet released official casualty figures or confirmed the extent of the damage that is caused by these strikes. The Strait of Hormuz has once again emerged as the center of global concern, and the narrow waterway is one of the world's most important energy routes, with a significant percentage of global oil and natural gas shipments passing through it every day. Iran also warned that any vessel attempting to pass through the strait could face military action, and Iranian military commanders declared that the waterway was effectively closed and warned commercial ships against approaching the area. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed that the two vessels attempting to transit the strait were targeted after allegedly violating restrictions. The IRGC also issued a statement warning that if the United States continued its military operations, the entire region could descend into the chaos. Brigadier General Majid Mousavi, commander of the IRGC Aerospace Force, warned that if the Strait of Hormuz was made unsafe, Iran would bring the region into the hell. And despite all those warnings, the US Central Command denied that the Strait of Hormuz had been shut down. American officials stated that commercial shipping traffic was continuing in order to move through the area and that the US forces remain committed to protecting international maritime routes. The Pentagon also emphasized that military operations were aimed at reducing threats against American personnel and global shipping lanes. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also said that the United States was fully prepared to continue military action if Iran refused to agree to the Washington's terms. Speaking after receiving military briefings at the CENTCOM headquarters in Florida, Hegseth warned that the U.S. would strike hard and target facilities that weaken Iran's military capabilities and improve operational conditions for the American forces in the region. President Donald Trump also issued one of its strongest warnings yet against Iran, and in an interview, Donald Trump claimed that Iran had already been hit with dozens of Tomahawk missiles and suggested that even larger attacks could follow if Iran refused to sign an agreement with the United States of America. Donald Trump stated that Iranian leaders had allegedly contacted him directly to request an end to the bombing campaign. However, Iran immediately denied all the claim, calling it a sheer lie and insisting that there had been no direct communication between Tehran and Washington. Iran's representatives at the United Nations also accused the United States of trying to force negotiations through the military pressure. Iranian Ambassador Amir Sayed Iravani also told that the UN Security Council that Iran would never negotiate under threats or intimidation and warned that Tehran would continue responding militarily to what it called American aggression. The latest escalation has raised fears that diplomatic talks aimed at ending the conflict may now completely collapse. Donald Trump had earlier suggested that the US and Iran were close to reaching an agreement to end the conflict, but the renewed military confrontation appears to have pushed both the sides further apart. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has meanwhile reiterated Israel's hardline position on Iran, insisting that Iran must completely dismantle its nuclear program and end its support for Hezbollah if lasting peace is to be achieved in the Middle East. Netanyahu also stated that weakening Iran's regional influence remains one of Israel's primary security objectives, and as tensions continue to rise, the possibility of a broader regional conflict is becoming increasingly real. Military analysts warn that any disruption in the Strait of Hormuz could severely impact global oil supplies, international trade routes, and energy markets worldwide. And with both the United States and Iran refusing to back down, the Middle East now stands at one of its most dangerous moments in the recent years, while the international community watches closely to see whether diplomacy can still prevent a much larger war. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.